Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Old Schooling Book Club. I am here with a special guest. I'm here with Jim Bevan. Welcome, Jim.
Glad to be here. Sorry, I forgot to bring refreshments. This is my first book club.
It's okay. So today we're going to be discussing about Chapter 2 of Things I Can't Explain, written by Mitchell Kriegman. It is the continuation of Clarissa Explains It All. So last time I was by myself discussing about Chapter 1, but I decided, since this is a book club, why not have somebody else to discuss alongside with me? So, Jim, before we go discuss about Chapter 2, you picked up the book yourself, and you were reading it for the first two chapters as of the recording of this. So, what are your thoughts on Chapter 1 so far?
Well, I will say the book is definitely not what I expected. I went into this blind. I thought it was going to be pretty much set during the time of the story, with Clarissa still in high school and, dealing with her typical teenage problems. But I was vastly surprised. It's set in, I don't know, either present day or late 2000s, early 2010s, based on the timeline. And I got very surprised. Wait, Clarissa's in New York now? She's unemployed? I'm like, it did strike me for a loop. At first, from some of the context, I was worried it was going to be one of those, more grittier, more cynical reboots of a childhood show, but it thankfully has not turned out that way yet. Clarissa can be a little cynical, but that's understandable given her current position, but she's still got the same wit, the same snark, and the same overall spirit that we enjoyed.
Yes. And for those who are just tuning in for the first time, so Chapter 1 of Things I Can't Explain was about Clarissa discussing about what her life has become over the past, I would say, couple of years or so. It was said that she's probably around her late 20s, but a number is not specific. And it does seem to take place around present day, because there are references to Lady Gaga, and there are references to BuzzFeed and Pop Sugar and various amounts of other websites.
Or it could just be one of those Wonder Year things where she's just reflecting on the past but inserting modern terms. But I don't know. My personal headcanon, until I get further in the book and they do specify a date, I'm just going to assume it's maybe, say, set between 2008, 2014, somewhere in that frame.
Yeah, that does seem to make a lot of sense, because the book did come out in 2015, and that would have been the time frame that it might have taken place in. So Chapter 1, going over briefly, because Chapter 2 is going to be our main discussion. So Clarissa has been job hunting. She left private school thinking that she might get a job as a journalist over there, but then there was less likely chance of it, because the head editor of the newspaper just so happens to hook up with a friend who wrote a saucy little essay about her breaking up with the science teacher that she's had a massive crush on. And so she decides to go over to the building where her old job used to be, so that she can be able to get some coffee from her favorite micro relationship, CCG, otherwise known as Cute Coffee Guy. But Chapter 1 concludes with him not being there. Chapter 2 begins with her interacting briefly with the barista who's over there, who is a teenager with blonde, floofy hair and piercings all over herself, and she's wondering where the guy is. And it just turned out that he was just making a quick phone call. And then finally, she starts developing a slight hatred for her immediately, because she noticed that she also has a huge crush on the coffee guy. They do some brief talking. Clarissa does some flirting in her mind while she's drinking the coffee, and then they start to get to know each other a little bit, the fact that she is a writer. And finally, when he asks for her name, somebody else is calling her name, and the chapter concludes with her being her parents.
And it concludes with her swearing, which I never expected.
Yeah, I know, right? For those who have listened to the audiobook, for those who had just purchased it, just to follow up along with the reading of it, or if you have read it yourself, then yes, it is quite a shock to see that, especially since that's something that I wasn't expecting when I first read it. It's like, wow, really? They're going that far? Okay.
You said there's an audiobook. Please tell me Melissa John Hart reads it.
No, it's Emily Hart who reads it, who is Melissa's sister.
Okay, well, good enough.
Anyway, but yeah, it's actually interesting because when I was doing chapter 1 of the book club last week, I was discussing about micro relationships and how people in New York City kind of just barely know each other than just like maybe nicknames that people give to each other or just by the way that they act or the way that they look. So, I mean, you come from a large city yourself. So, have you ever had any like cases where you you have a micro relationship with anyone?
A few people, mostly, people like say the cafeteria workers at the school I went to. Just people I would see randomly on the way to work or just in places or shops I go to. It's it's a kind of thing. I did like how Clarissa outlined her stance on micro relationships and how she said it was essential that you never learn the other person's name because that just pushes things into awkward territory.
It does, especially if you just so happen to have this general consensus that, oh, I know this person based off of the very few times that we've come across each other. And then when you get to know them more, it's like, oh, maybe they're not the person that I thought they were. So that could be the case in which maybe the people that Clarissa has had micro relationships with, maybe she doesn't want to go too far. Otherwise, then she'll have to go much deeper than what she already wants to. In a big city like New York City, I guess it's a little bit overwhelming to get to know every single person there.
Definitely. And sometimes it's best that way. Sometimes you just want someone, in a very casual relationship because of all the things going on in your life. You don't have, like I guess you could say, the time or the mental energy to expend on another close friendship.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I guess going into chapter 2 a little bit. So we do get to see more insights about how Clarissa deals with the fact that there might be another person who has a crush on the cute coffee guy. And, she already takes an immediate hatred towards her, even though she didn't really do anything. The only thing she did was she was asking if she wanted coffee when she was asking where CCG, even though that it's obvious that the girl wasn't going to know who CCG was. She thought it was like some office or like a modeling agency that was in a floor or something. And then she was asking about like, oh, I'm looking for the coffee guy who usually works there. And then she just briefly talks about it. And then when the coffee guy does show up and gives her a biscotti as a thanks, and then she kind of flirts with him. It's kind of interesting about how Clarissa tends to be quite jealous really quickly, even though she doesn't know the full context.
Yeah, this book definitely does not pass the Bechdel test.
Remind those who don't know what that is.
It's not a real metric for media criticism. It's just something that gets thrown a lot around. But the Bechdel test is basically you have to observe a film where two women are interacting, and there's discussion cannot be about a man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, and also another thing that we do get to see is that, usually Clarissa would be having her monologue moments where she would be looking at stuff, whether it be that she looks at the coffee, she would be looking over at the coffee booth, and then she sees the name of the place, which is called Where Have You Been? Where have you been? Where have you been all my life?
Which she thinks would be better shortened as Where Have You Been?
Yeah, exactly. And then there's also the fact that the machine to make the coffee is called Frankensteam because the cute coffee guy was putting it together with various parts so that he can be able to use old parts of old machines to make it together into this one big machine. And then there have been the many times in which Clarissa would be, interacting with the coffee guy other than just like, grabbing coffee, and that was pretty much it. Apparently, she's been there at least 2,000 times, which is, I mean, I can't believe that she was able to count the amount of times that she was able to go there. And then there goes the scene in which when she goes more into the depths of micro relationship when it comes to, you can't know about a person's name because then the relationship would be more than just, then it's just an acquaintanceship. And she was kind of shocked by it, but then at first she was kind of hesitant, but then after a while when she starts looking at him more, then she's like, okay, maybe I'll start to get to know him a little bit more.
There's definitely been a slight personality change, which is to be expected with her aging, but they didn't completely rewrite the character. She's still the same Clarissa at the heart of it all.
Right. She still tends to be a bit monologue-y whenever it comes to various moments. And she does tend to be a tad bit cynical at points, especially when you discuss about her being incredibly jealous of the barista, even though she didn't really do anything. So, even with Clarissa, taking a sip of her coffee, thinking about all the seductive things that she wants to do to the cute coffee guys. Like, yeah, I'm taking a sip of this coffee. It could be anything you want. It could be an earlobe. It could be your lips or anything. So, it's like, I guess, she could be kind of desperate, especially since she's already going through a lot as it is.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I also know she's more restrained with her snark, I have noticed. I think that has to do partially with the change in medium, because she doesn't have an audience to address like she did on the show.
Yeah, that actually makes me wonder about, I know that Nickelodeon has been doing a lot of, TV movies based off of their programs. They recently did it for Legends of the Hidden Temple, Hey Arnold, Rocko's Modern Life, Invader Zim, and Are You Afraid of the Dark? I'm curious if they ever do bring back Clarissa Explains It All, which there have been talks of for quite a while. Would they start adapting Things I Can't Explain first, or would they just start off from scratch and just do the complete reboot?
Hard to say. If they do, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to reboot it and have Melissa Joan Hart come back as the new Clarissa's mother.
Yeah, that does seem to be the pretty easy route for sure, because they've done that with Girl Meets World, Fuller House, and Raven's Home, in which you do get to see the main protagonist of the original series as parents, and it focuses on the kids. If they are going to do Things I Can't Explain, then I think that they either have to do one of two things. If they are going to air it on Netflix, then it definitely does need to lean towards more of the adult audience, because that's who is going to watch it in the first place. But if they're going to aim it for Nickelodeon, if they do air Things I Can't Explain, they're probably going to have to cut off some of the things that may not be appropriate for the younger children.
Right. They had to do something similar, I think, when they decided to air the Batman Ninja Turtles movie, because if you watch the movie on DVD, there's actually quite a bit of character death in it that they had to edit around.
Right. So the chapter concludes with Clarissa's parents showing up all of a sudden, and she's just absolutely shocked. She has no idea what to do. Now, it actually is curious, because I know that Clarissa tends to be a bit embarrassed with her parents because they tend to act really goofy, but happens to be there with a guy drinking coffee. It's like, I wonder why she's like so uptight and scared about it. It makes you wonder about what's going to happen next week.
Exactly. Plus, she is still unemployed, and let's be honest, you never want to have to admit to your parents that your path in life isn't going the way you planned it to. Yeah,
exactly. So, yeah, and especially it just so happens to be a coincidence that she's in the same building where her old job was.
I know. Dramatic convenience.
Sure. I think that for the most part, I guess, when it comes to the discussion of this chapter, it's not really a long chapter, actually. It's half of what chapter 1 was. I take it that chapter 3 is going to be a much longer chapter to make up for it. So, I think that could be it for this discussion. So, to leave all of you guys for your questions of the week, and I would love to see the comments below. So, I mean, I'm actually curious for all of you guys. Do you think that Clarissa's behavior towards the barista was justified? And also, what are your thoughts on Clarissa's um, personality towards the cute coffee guy? And what do you think will happen when she interacts with her parents? So, all of that will be discussed next week. So, Jim, once again, thank you so much for coming on over and discussing about Chapter 2.
No problem. This was fun. I will be with you next week for Chapter 3.
All right. So tune in this coming Sunday as we're going to read Chapter 3. And next Thursday, we will be discussing about it. So thank you so much for everybody for tuning in. Hope to see you around soon and take care.